Flags have been used in video games for the better part of 40 years now. One of the first instances being used in the arcade game called Galaxian back in 1979. Look at these little guys, they almost look like little flags. Fast forward to today, we arrive at old school Runescape, which is a game that properly puts the massive in MMORPG with its huge world that is still being expanded on a regular basis. And with a big world comes a big amount of cities, and of course with a big amount of cities comes a big amount of flags for said cities. And today, we're going to investigate the various flags in old school RuneScape. Starting with the flag that every single new character has had the opportunity to spot, we have the flag of Lumbridge Castle. You can see this flag has a light blue background color, and in the center there is a white arrow pointing upwards, otherwise known as a chevron. But why? Well, to add a bit of context, back in the High Middle Ages, or somewhere between 1100 to 1300 AD, people were really starting to get stoked about this cool thing that everybody was making for each other called a coat of arms. As these heraldic designs grew in popularity, commonly seen concepts started to become standardized, properly referred to as ordinaries. These include such classics as the cross, the pale, the bend, and of course the humble chevron, among a few others. Funnily enough, the flag for the North American Vexillological Association also uses the prominently displayed white chevron.
The what?
The North American Vexillological Association is an organization devoted to vexillology, or the study of flags, which is exactly what we're doing right now. Consider me a vexillologist, and I suppose that would make you a vexillophile. Who knew? Bringing our focus back to the Lumbridge flag, this design is indeed seen in-game in various different spots around the Lumbridge Castle. But that's not the only place this design is used. If you go to the center of the Ardoyne Town Square, face southwest and look up, you will be greeted with the flag of Lumbridge Castle adorned on some shields. In fact, these shields are found in several different other places in the world like Remington, the fight arena, and even in the Temple of Ikov for some reason. I'm not sure why these Lumbridgian shields are found everywhere, but maybe the castle had some extras laying around, and maybe they didn't spark enough joy, so they decided to sell off the extra. Now, we clearly know all about this iconic castle's flag, but what about the overarching kingdom that Lumbridge resides in, otherwise known as Misthalin? Well, if you have a peek at the game files, Object ID 867 shows an interesting purple flag with a fancy green X shape in the center with the examine text of A Standard of Misthalin. Perfect! Then it looks like we have ourselves the flag of the region. Not so fast there, me from a few seconds ago. You forgot to check one crucial thing. Can you even find this flag in the game? Well, if you search for it, you're probably gonna have a horrible time because this model is not used in the game at all. But what does that mean for us? Can we definitively say that this is the flag of Misthalin, or is this just some sort of scrapped content that they never opted to use? I attempted to get to the bottom of this by messaging several different J-mods, including the increasingly handsome mod Ash, regarding this dilemma, but I kept getting redirected to a different person until eventually I ended up hitting a dead end, as there's no real way to contact Mod West without paying for an X membership, and I'd rather eat a brick without any milk than do that. I did try to message him on Reddit too, but either he didn't see it or he wasn't interested in my vexillological conundrum. In my personal opinion, I think it's fair to see this as the true canonical flag of Misthalin until there's any other further information that discredits this idea. I know in the previous region-locked League's game modes, the Misthalin area was depicted using the flag of Lumbridge, but I think that's more due to the recognition of the Lumbridge flag, especially considering the Lumbridge flag describes itself as the standard of Lumbridge Castle specifically. Plus, the wiki has had this as the Misthalin flag for the last 4 years, and I like it, so there you have it. If you make your way to northern Misthalin, you're sure to find the bustling town of Varrock, where its colors are proudly displayed all across the castle, and even at some of the entrances into the city. The flag has a yellow background with 2 gray, upward-facing horns curved outward, with their ends meeting at the top, and a white end cap on the flag. Although strangely enough, there's actually another variation of this flag that shows a slightly different color scheme, being Object ID 868 with a green background and yellow horns in the center. Both variations are actively seen in the game world, so it's kinda hard to say why they didn't just decide on one style. Moving to the west, no, not that west, we're met with the Kingdom of Asgarnia, with a nice bright blue flag with a white sun in the center and a white cap at the end of the flag. When examined, it reads a Standard of Asgarnia, which seems quite fitting. This flag is found all across Falador Castle, the capital of Asgarnia, but that isn't the only variation found within the world. Just below the treacherous Death Plateau in the town of Burthorpe, you can find item ID 3679, the same flag with a more muted steel blue background color, which actually seems quite fitting for the location. The examine text for this flag is identical to the ones found in Falador, which makes a whole lot of sense considering they just changed the color of the flag and literally nothing else. This brief moment of sensibility is immediately decimated by the existence of Object ID 858, however, which again is the exact same flag, but in a green color palette. It's found in the Gnome Stronghold, and when examined, it reads, a standard of the Gnome race. Considering the Gnome Stronghold is found in the region of Kandarin, that makes the existence of this variation all the more confusing. But don't worry, because it gets significantly worse here in just a little bit. In the newly discovered region of Varlamore, they fly a quite iconic flag that also bears a very heavy resemblance to the Asgarnian counterpart. Just take a look at ID 51900, a banner showing the emblem of Varlamore. I'm having a hard time determining who's copying who here at this point, as this is clearly the exact same emblem that Asgarnia and the Gnome Stronghold uses for their own flags. Maybe in the world of Gielinor, the symbol of the sun is considered a heraldic ordinary, like the chevron found on the Lumbridge Castle flag. It's starting to seem more likely by the minute, but that doesn't discount the confusion this usage could introduce, especially into newcomers to this area who are only familiar with the Asgarnian flag. Now, if you look all the way to the north from Burthorpe, you'll find yet another settlement called Weiss, where they fly their, interesting flag. It seems to be a skin of some sort of animal attached to a banner post, but when examined, it clearly states a banner of Weiss. No designs at all, and it's likely more just a message for anyone attempting to enter without permission. Interestingly enough, though, the internal config name for the Object ID 33233 is my2arm_town_banner, which makes me curious if there was actually a different name intended for this settlement before they decided on Weiss. Interesting. Continuing west, we make our way to Kandarin, which proudly displays its red flag with a whopping 2 upward-facing white chevrons and a blue line across the bottom. This flag is flown all across Ardoin Castle, the capital of Kandarin, but that isn't the only place you'll find this symbol. If you ever make your way to Tyrus Camp in Tiranwin, you'll find several Kandarin flags flown in a blue and white colorway, as opposed to this red and white original scheme. Now, I know that King Lathis was colluding with Lord Isleworth and successfully took out King Tyrus, the former rule of West Ardoin, but I do wonder if the blue and white Kandarin flags indicate that King Tyrus was working with one of the other elven clans during his initial investigation of Tirynwyn. This is purely speculation, and we'll dive more into Tirynwyn a bit later, but the colors of the Amlod flag do share the same color palette as the flag seen here. Just something to think about. Interestingly enough, there's actually 2 other variations of the Kandarin flag found within the world, being a variation with a dark blue background with white chevrons found only in the combat training camp just south of the Gnome Stronghold, and, of course, a green and white variation in the Gnome Stronghold, which, when examined, reads a standard of the Gnome race. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but either the gnomes have managed to accidentally recreate 2 flags of some of the largest kingdoms in the world, or these little fellas are literally just out here stealing flag designs and calling them their own. And to think I invested all that time helping these guys out, only for them to steal the designs from both their neighboring region as well as their own. If you have any theories as to why they might have done this, leave them in the comments below. Oh, and if you accidentally click the like and subscribe buttons on your way down, I promise I won't be too upset. Coming back to Ardoin Castle, there is apparently a separate flag in the game files for the city of Ardoin specifically. Object ID 862 with a green background and depicting what I can only explain as a yellow martini glass with red liquid in it, a white cap at the end of the flag, and when examined, it simply states the Flag of Ardoin. Now, just like the Flag of Misthalin, this is not found in-game anywhere. But based on our earlier ruling with the Misthalin flag, I like to believe that this is in fact the true Flag of Ardoin, but nobody flies it for one reason or another. Perhaps the people of this city are huge fans of the red and white colorway, which I can't blame them, the Kandarin flag looks pretty good. Or maybe King Lathis is a recovering alcoholic, and he's keen on removing everything that reminds him of his former addiction. Either way, I love this flag, and it's definitely my favorite one in the entire game by far. Could you imagine moving to a new city just to find out that the official flag is just a picture of a cool, refreshing can of Miller Lite? Amazing. One interesting find while we're still in the city of Ardoin is actually in the Servants Guild, where hanging on the wall you'll find object ID 15474, and when examined it states the arms of the Servants Guild. I find it quite interesting actually that the servants have their own heraldry, but I suppose that makes sense as they would likely be working with royalty on a regular basis. I speculate the coat was given to them by King Lathis as a sign of mutual respect for their work, which is probably the only nice thing King Lathis has ever done. Very cool though. North of the Kingdom of Kandarin, we find ourselves within the Fremennik province, which consists of several settlements ruled by the Fremennik and the Barbarians. In this region, we can find a few flags of importance. The first pair being object ID 21500 and 21501, being the banners for Jatiz So and Natiz Not respectively, according to their examined text. The flag for Jatiz So bears a gray background with what looks to be a tree, and its roots are wrapped in a circle just below it. For Natiz Not, we can see a brown background color with a gray triangle in the center, a yellow hexagon inside that, and 2 tan horns coming from each side of the top of the shape, bearing a particularly Fremennik look. These specific models aren't found in-game, but very similar standards are found on each of the island settlements. I am curious about the meaning behind each settlement's insignias, but I suppose some things must be left for interpretation. But if you have any ideas, let me know. Just to the east, there are yet another pair of islands, this time housing their own opposing kingdom, being the Kingdom of Miscellanea and the Kingdom of Etcetera. Atop each castle, we can find object IDs 4692 and 4693, respectively, another pair of flags. The flags on the Miscellanea Castle are a red color with a white stripe, not too far away from the Kandarin color scheme, and this flag is only found right here on the castle. On the castle of Etcetera, however, we can find a set of white flags with a black stripe, which are found right here on the castle, and exactly in one other location in Gielinor: the wilderness. Just northwest of the Lava Dragon Isle, there's a group of inaccessible caves with a single white flag with a black vertical stripe, identical to the ones found flying in Etcetera. How is this possible? I suppose it's possible that these flags aren't meant to symbolize each Fremennik kingdom, and they're just some random flags, according to their generic examine text. But their prevalent usage atop each respective castle makes me think otherwise. I wouldn't be too surprised if a single flagpole was stolen by some monster, like an ice troll, and then was stolen from them by some sort of goblin, until it ended up making its way right in the middle of the deep wilderness. Additionally, if you look at the internal config names for these flags, they read as MISC_flagpole and MISC_flagpole2. Now, clearly these can be explained as the flagpoles are found on the island of Miscellanea. However, perhaps there was a developer who misinterpreted the internal config name as some random miscellaneous flagpole and just plopped it into the middle of the wilderness without actually knowing its original purpose. Come on, guys. Who did it? Looking even further to the west, you can spot the land of Tirinwin, whose capital city is the famous Prifddinas. This city is split into 8 different districts, for the 8 elven clans that helped build it. Each clan has their own flag as well, these clans being Amlod, Kadarn, Kurwis, Hefen, Isleworth, Ithel, Myler, and the Traherne. There also exists a secret 9th clan, being the Kaiwer, but they didn't choose to follow Saren into Prifddinas, and they chose to remain in their homeworld of Teridiad instead. So their flag is not seen anywhere in the world. Taking a trip to the other side of Gielinor, we arrive at the intimidating Mauritania, the land of vampires. They don't tend to use typical flags and standards like most other regions, as they tend to prefer using their insignia carved directly into the architecture instead. However, there are a few instances where the Mauritania insignia is displayed on a flag, one example being Object ID 39245, as an entire wall asset with the flag attached. You can see its iconic red bat on a deep indigo shield crest with a gold crown atop the bat. As for the capital of Mauritania, Darkmire, although I can't specifically confirm that there is a distinct flag for the city itself, there are several flags proudly displayed in the main areas, which begs me to believe that Object ID 39153 is likely the official flag of Darkmire. It boasts various shades of red as a background, and what appears to be a white droplet with several arrows pointing to it in a surrounding circle. I wonder if this is intended as sort of a reminder to be on the constant hunt for blood, as it is widely known that the vampires are struggling with a blood shortage. Finishing up the regional flags, we have the famous Great Kurend. Object ID 13465 shows a black flag with an inverted green chevron a white hand in the center, and 5 multicolored orbs above the hand, symbolizing the 5 different cities that divide the region. I appreciate the symbolism shown on this flag, and it definitely has a bit of a different feel compared to most of the other flags we've seen today. Some may consider it to be a bit busy, but in the world of vexillology, it could be a whole lot worse. Trust me. There are many other flags in Gielinor that depict more than just locations, however, and let's take a look at just a few of them. Object IDs 16568 and 16569 are both Goblin standards, used for different internal factions of the race. ID 11614 is for the Barbarian race flown in Barbarian Village, and 11861 is for the Dwarven race as well. There is also a standard for the Ogres, but instead of a printed design, well, they seem to have opted for the use of bones instead. Charming. Beyond symbolizing various races, we also have a flag flown in the Rising Sun Inn in Falador, which is one of the nicest looking flags in the game for sure, which is fitting for the nicest bar in all of Asgarnia. There are also flags for various gods in the world, being for Zeros, Saradomin, Guthix, and of course Zamorak. One interesting find that was brought to my attention by one of the active members in the Old School RuneScape Wiki Discord, Rice Dog, has to do with the symbol of Zamorak. Item ID 1724 is the unholy symbol, and it clearly depicts the symbol of Zamorak. However, the internal config name for this item is Blessed Snake. Comparing this to the config name for item ID 1718, or the holy symbol, it reads Blessed Star. That means that the symbol of Zamorak is confirmed to be a depiction of a snake, which wouldn't have been my first guess, but is absolutely intriguing nonetheless. Finally, there is one more flag I'd like to go over today, being Object ID 10253, showing a black background and a strange red symbol in the middle. Its generic examine text doesn't help us too much, and its use case is actually a little bit confusing. You see, this flag is found in the ruins of User, but only during the cutscene in the Shadow of the Storm quest. Perhaps this is a symbol for something specifically for summoning a demon, which is further validated by the config name summon_standard_red. But like most of these theories, I can't be certain. I wish there was more information regarding some of this symbolism, but speculation is all we have for now, so that's where it remains. And there we have it. There are quite a few flags in this game, and the more we started to analyze, the more confusing the whole situation got. Hopefully, you'll be coming out of this with a bit more insight on the various bits of symbolism used in Gielinor, and where you're likely to find some of these flags flown. Did I miss any of your favorite flags? Leave them in the comments below, and we can talk about it. Or, if you want to discuss things like this with me in future investigations, you can join my Discord server, link in the description below. If you liked the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I also have channel memberships available for anybody who would like to support me even further in my content creation journey. I'd like to shout out my first ever channel member who subscribed to the Legend tier, Sean James. Thank you so much for your support, it means the world to me. And thank you to everybody who watched this video to the very end. Drop a flag gang in the comments below so that I know that you made it this far. And with that out of the way, thanks so much for watching, and take it easy. Oh, and just a side note, there are a few things that I don't quite understand and I still wasn't really able to get an answer for. For example, if you go back to the Ardoin town square from earlier and you face towards the castle and look up, you'll see a shield with an inverted Kandarin flag in blue and white colors. I couldn't find much of an explanation for this. It is kind of a match to the Ardoin flag that is used in RuneScape 3, but not really. I mean, like, you can kind of see it, but it's not really there. So if anybody has any theories or answers to this, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.